It's a theory. It's a Chris. It's a theory. Chrissy Chris. Chris's crazy theory. We beseech thee, gods of the Wi-Fi. Yes, rub the magic book. Rub Horrific Tales Volume 2 to see if it gives us better Wi-Fi. Available in good shops, folks.
So I'm thinking, even though I haven't done anything to fix the Wi-Fi in the last 20 minutes, I'm hoping it magically fixed itself. But yeah, that to me was an important part of the fun of the movie, was trying to figure out why the Djinn had such a hard time defeating her. Am I still okay? Yep. You give me the thumbs down, and we'll pull the plug if it's not working. But so starting at the opening shot of the movie, it was clear that flames had something to do with this movie. It was very important, right? They start with the flames. It's right there in the title, and throughout the movie, there was a lot of scenes of cigarettes, of fire. So I thought that was interesting, and I think we'll come back to that as we proceed through a series of slides. So they start with once, in a time before God, light gave birth to the angel. So they're explaining the history of the Djinn. I thought this was all very interesting. I love the beginning, third of the movie. And the fire gave birth to the Djinn. So the fire was a very important aspect. Upon granting of the third, the unholy legion of the Djinn shall be freed upon the earth. Oh, the one who wakes a Djinn shall be given 3 wishes, right? That was like the premise of the movie. That was very important. The person that wakes the Djinn. Well, if you notice in the movie, was it Todd? Was it? What was his name?
Yeah, Josh.
Josh. Okay, way off. We can edit that out. But my buddy Josh here, he's actually the one that wakes the Djinn. Did you notice that? He's the one that's using a laser on it, and out comes the Djinn. So why didn't he get the 3 wishes?
Hold on.
She gave him the gem, sure.
Polish it first and basically rub the lamp. That scene happened first before he examined it.
It wasn't open. The guy was still, the Djinn was still trapped.
No, don't forget, this was, if it had been a lamp, it's taken a variation of the theme. So she rubbed the lamp, but this was a prison.
She was examining the gem, but she wasn't exactly like rubbing it profusely. If someone hands you the lamp, and then you're the one that rubs the lamp and then or burns the lamp and the lamp comes out, you're still the one that opens it. So I thought it was interesting, and I think the reason why is because there's something special about our buddy Alexandra.
Yeah, because even the other guy, I suppose he picked it up first when the thing broke. Remember, he wiped it to give to the. So it's passed through a number of hands at this point. I see where you're going. It could be a massive plot hole.
It could, but I think there's actually planned, and there's a reason why Alexandra was much more important to the Djinn and his plans than we let on. So proceeding to the next slide, her name alone was very striking to me. It was a big clue as to her importance. Her name, to me, was very reminiscent of the Great Library of Alexandria. And the Great Library, as we all know, is famous for being the biggest source of knowledge in the ancient world. There were over 700,000 scrolls that were lost in the Great Fire. A very small percentage of those scrolls were saved. So it was interesting that her name was, based upon that. And it's either, her parents were big fans of antiquities and things like that, which might be why she went into that field after her parents died in the fire, or she has some connection, and that maybe she's actually quite older than we realize. So moving on to the next slide here. So again, her job is a procurer of antiquities, and she's obviously very invested in that field. And I think it's because over the millennia, she's seen these items firsthand. She just doesn't realize it yet. And I'll explain why I think that is the case. But we see her hard at work with her microscope looking at some of the rarer finds across the world. So the fire was a big thing. I think they kept alluding to the fact that this was very important. And we find out more that she was in a fire, Alexandra, and that was very important to her backstory. Cigarettes. Again, we're seeing signs of fire, cigarettes. This has a lot to do with the importance of the character of Alexandra. So she talks to her sister about what's going on, and the sister mentions, you want me to call Dr. Mentiglio again? And as we go further in the conversation, the sister says, you're imagining things just like last time.
Did you notice?
So she's having these images. She's seeing a lot of, yeah.
In less than 40 seconds, we get their entire backstory, the tragedy, the bond they have between each other, the fact that she's had to get counseling, the fact that she feels, her whole motivation, what drives her as a person in less than 40 seconds in this movie.
Yes.
Today,
Yeah.
that'll be done in
No,
about
you're
40
absolutely right.
minutes. That would take 40 minutes to convey the same sort of why Alex is a strong person.
Yeah, 100%. It was a great scene.
40 seconds.
Aside from,
one scene.
yeah. Aside from the fact that there was no pillow fight, I thought it was a perfect scene. Absolutely. So she says you're imagining things just like last time. She said this is nothing like last time, and you've got to stop blaming yourself, or the whole effing thing is going to start again. So we get this idea that visions might be some repressed memory that she's trying to avoid. Therapy, the nightmares, everything. So she's talking the same thing about these nightmares, these visions. And then she explains, I got you out of the fire. I couldn't get mom out. I couldn't get dad out. So she's distraught, but I think there's something more to these visions.
She said she didn't.
So,
and her sister made the point that she couldn't.
Right.
Once again,
hey,
40 seconds. Like I said, you that scene's about less than a minute, that scene, and all of that, like I said, everything about her character is laid out. You just don't get movie making like that anymore.
Absolutely. But you hit on a great point. Yeah, you hit on a great point. She said, I didn't save them, and the sister said, no, you couldn't. But she said didn't. And I think that she's repressing the fact that she has power, she has abilities that she wasn't able to use in a timely manner, because everyone has limitations. But if you notice, she feels connected to every death scene in the movie. We don't see that with any other character. Even going back to the scene in the beginning of the movie, we don't see the sorcerer or the who was the guy, the Sultan, the Emperor.
Sorry, the Sultan. Yeah, sorry, the
Sultan. Yeah, we don't see him having any connection. So there's something special about Alexandra where she can feel the deaths of these characters almost as if she herself has the same abilities as the Djinn. She's got that same connection to them. That's why she sees it in her mind. There's no other reason why she would. That's not anything to do with the wishes. She didn't wish for any kind of ability. The gem doesn't give her that ability, but she's connected nonetheless to all of these deaths. This was interesting. Did you notice when she comes to visit her friend, and I apologize, I don't have the name of the character in front of me.
Oh, the professor?
The professor. Did you notice the way this shot was framed? We don't see the professor. She says, hi, can I come in? And she needs to wait. At this point, she was in a panic. You think she would have just rushed in, but she didn't, because much like with other supernatural beings, vampires, etc., you have to be asked inside. It's just a natural course of the horror genre that you have to be asked inside to have power. So I thought that was interesting the way that was framed, and then it gave more of a clue to her actual origins. So later on, when this guy, who was great, by the way, when the Djinn says, as you wish, and all hell breaks loose at that party, did you notice that she was never harmed? A lot of other people were. People were dying left and right. This lady got turned into stone. But Alexandra, she was scared, sure, but she was never actually hurt.
Well, that was the same as because it's the wishes protector. So it was the same as the Sultan. This was all basically it's the same thing that he tried with the first one, right? You can wish for all this to stop.
Right, but he could have taken out her legs. He only needed her mouth to say stop. He could have cut off her legs, cut off her arms, done a lot worse to her. But he seemed to be powerless to her. All he could do was scare her. He couldn't do anything more. And I have more evidence, because I could see you're a doubting Thomas. Does anyone use that phrase anymore? So when her friend says, "Forget what our culture has made of the Djinn, forget Barbara Eden, and forget Robin Williams." Robin Williams was interesting, right? Because that was the very popular movie Aladdin. And what happens in the plot of Aladdin? At the end of the movie, the Djinn is freed. The genie is freed. And I think this is exactly what happened to Alexandra. I think she was actually a Djinn herself. And I have more evidence because this is a very... Let me know if I'm still coming in okay?
Yeah, it's still
there. All right. So we talked about how she was a coach. So she says that's when you need stillness. She's talking to them. She's giving them advice from her repressed past. I think she's not aware that she was a Djinn. I think she probably wished herself to forget and to be more human. I think this is what she wanted to be. But still, there's repressed memory. So when she says, this is when you need stillness, time doesn't exist. Stillness, time doesn't exist. This is part of her history of being trapped in her own lamp or gem for thousands of years. This is why she's named after the Great Library of Alexandria. This is why she has powers. This is why she talks about time doesn't exist, stillness, because she herself was a prisoner for thousands of years or more. When she finally gets a wish from the Djinn, what does she ask for? After she asks to blow his head off, she asks to know what you are. Why would that be important to someone, to know what the Djinn is? Because she herself feels a connection to him. So her first wish is to know what he's like. She goes inside the gem. This brings back some memories for her because I think
tent.
She herself is a
the
Djinn.
pop-up tent.
Yeah.
This is a really cheesy bit of the movie. It's just that, that corridor.
Yeah. But isn't that an interesting thing that she would choose that as her first wish? Because she wanted to connect with the Djinn because she herself has Djinnish roots. Later on, when she says, I wish Mickey Torelli hadn't been drinking on the job, look at her face. She is determined. She is not scared. She definitely has an inner power that is reflected in these moments. And then when the Djinn goes away, this was interesting, I thought. So she wished for time to go back 2 days ago, right? So every character then is unaware of what happened. And the only difference is that the Torelli guy is not drunk, right? So if every character goes back 2 days in time,
it's a butterfly.
How is she aware? Yeah, but how is she aware of the events of the last 2 days unless she herself was unaffected because of her magical abilities as a Djinn? That's why she knows what happened the last 2 days. No one else does. And she even winks at him. This, you remember Genie in a Bottle? The 1960s movie, or TV show rather? That was or Bewitched, right? With the winking and the... Yeah. So again, this is some of these, I just thought of that in the moment, but this is a clue as to her magical ability. This guy himself says, you're a dangerous person to know, Alexandra. He knows the reality. He's aware that she must have wished to not be aware that she's a Djinn. She wanted to be like a human, much like Pinocchio wanted to be a real boy. He's aware of how powerful she is. That's why he acts the way he does around her. He tells her, you're a dangerous person to know. I could use some tips. But he says, wish on, child. He says, wish on, child. Child. At the time, I thought it was a throwaway line. But if she's part of the same race as he is, that line now makes sense. Her final words in the movie to him, wish you'd never met me. She's compelling him to give a wish. This is part of her natural ability and upbringing. That is her phrase to him. This is quintessential Djinn 101 right here. Wish you'd never met me. That's it. That's the smoking gun, my friend. She is a Djinn. I bet Djinn see that one coming.
There you go, folks.